Good afternoon, everyone. Hi, I'm Char Nolan, one of the chef instructors here at Rouxbe. Welcome to my live Ask Me Anything event. You know, sometimes when I'm typing the words AMA, I always think of the medical term, which stands for Against Medical Advice. And people have often come up to me and said, are you like in healthcare or what do you do? So I'm not in healthcare. Ask me anything. I will always tell you the answer. Welcome. Today is August the 12th. And it's a beautiful day in Philadelphia. It's in the low to mid 90s, so it's not too bad. So let's get right into it. We have some great questions today. And the first one comes from, and I hope I'm saying your name correctly, Afke. And she wanted some advice about how to deal with anxiety and the fear of failure when cooking dishes for other people. So, my first sort of tip or rule would be when you get back a Ruby assignment, you can cut and paste the response from your instructor and keep it into a document so that you have something positive and interesting to read about your good work. Because sometimes it's difficult for us to say, can't believe I did that, it was fabulous. But when you hear some wise words from Chef Eric or Chef Dan or whomever, Chef Demetra, those words can be powerful and positive words. So I would do that. And if you are going to cook, let's say you're going to cater an event or a small party or whatever, you're probably going to test all of those recipes before you get to the venue several days in advance. Ask some of your friends or your neighbors to check something out and look for that feedback. Now, the one thing that could be somewhat difficult is that if you're making whole food plant-based, even with no oil, it might be difficult to find the right audience for that. So you probably by now have a very good sense of taste, and you eat with your eyes first, and you know what food should look like, and you know what it should taste like. So I think that you just need to believe in yourself and all the good work that you have done while you've been a student at Rouxbe. And I hope that that helps, and I would love to try your food. Thank you so much for sending that question in, because to be honest, I have had other students ask me the same question in an assignment, or sometimes they will email me or whatever. So thank you so much for sending that in. That was a very important question. This question is from Bill S. And my producer, Patrick, is kind enough that he will send me several questions the night before, so I have an idea of what to look for. So Bill, last night I went to the grocery store and I purchased a couple of things. This is tempeh that is made with black beans. It is soy-free. I've got to eat it before September the 14th, so I'll be on it. There are some theories that say that you can use mushrooms or seitan or whatever to create a tempeh-like dinner. However, learning to cook a fermented food like this is such a pivotal cornerstone in learning to make whole food, plant-based food. So you can get this. There is also barley tempeh. If you are not allergic to gluten, you can use that. So that's the first thing. So there are alternatives to soy-based tempeh. Now, the other question you had asked was about tofu. And I'm rather fond of tofu. I've lived in Philadelphia for more than half of my lifetime. And we all know that in the annals of cuisine of Philadelphia, that Benjamin Franklin is responsible for bringing, as he called it, Chinese cheese to America. So this is a soy-free tofu that is made with fava beans. And I've had this before, and it's very, very good. I will say that these products can run on the expensive side. The the black bean tempeh, I think was about $10. And this was also near $10 as well. So what's the alternative? Because I, as an instructor, really want you to do the assignment, because it gives you every single ounce of the experience of learning to cook with tempeh and tofu. So here you see I have some orange or red lentil beans. I don't know why they're not called orange, because to me they're orange. I took a cup of this and 3 cups of hot water, and I put it in the food processor. And here I made a lentil tofu. I have made this many times before. It's very economical to make. This is about 2 pounds of tofu in this, and I also just want to show you with this trusty knife of mine that it cuts much like tofu. And because I'm not serving this to anyone, I can just show you the texture. Here's its texture. And you can see that it resembles tofu a lot. So if you follow our baked tofu recipe that comes with that wonderful marinade that has smoked paprika, or if you don't like smoked paprika, or you're not going to use, liquid smoke, that marinade will change the taste of anything and really give it a good flavor. So I have made this in the air fryer and I have made it roasted in the oven per exactly the recipe, and it works beautifully. This cost me about 50 cents to make. It will store well in the refrigerator. I like to just cook it all up at once and then put it in the freezer. So those would be my alternatives to you, Bill. I think they would work well. You can also take some chickpea flour, and you can also make a tofu from that. And that is about 1 3/4 cup of water to a cup of the flour. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not wild about the taste of chickpea flour. So you're really going to have to season it up with garlic and some soy and some other things just to sort of take what I consider to be a metallic taste. Making it yourself is very cost effective. It might add a little more labor to your assignment, but you will get it done. And I should also tell you that to make the tofu, the red lentil tofu, took all of 10 minutes. It took me 3 minutes to boil the water, 2 minutes to cook it, to put it into my Vitamix. And you do want to look for a mixer or blender rather that can tolerate a high temperature and won't have your top pop off. And stirring it into the pan. And it's very easy to do. My suggestion is to use a wooden utensil rather than a metal utensil, because the mixture will not stick to metal, will not stick to wood. So that's my little advice. I thought I had brought a spatula up here. We're working out of my office today because we have some painters downstairs. So I had to sort of move my kitchen up here. So you can make it yourself. You can find some alternatives made from different kinds of beans. And as for the tempeh, there's barley, there's black bean, there are many others. I also want to say that back in the day, when I was a student at Rouxbe, the World Cuisine unit was that you took yourself on a field trip to a restaurant whose cuisine you weren't familiar with. And the restaurant that I went to happened to be right next door to H Mart, which is the largest Pan-Asian grocery store in the world. If you live near an H Mart, I would definitely visit because it's so much fun. If you're going to make some summer rolls and you're looking for brown rice paper, you go to H Mart. I think I may have mentioned that when I was a student, I went to H Mart because it was really easy to find ingredients. And I also just want to say that at all of the H Marts, they have walls and walls and walls of miso and tofu made from every kind of protein source that you can think of. So if you are looking for the challenge of finding a tofu alternative, or even if you want to find a miso that's made with garbanzo beans, or if you're looking for a low sodium miso, that is definitely the place to go. So Bill, I hope that this has helped you. I'll be looking for your assignment. It was a great question. It's one that we receive often from other students. So thank you so much for sending it in. I really appreciated it. And if you follow us on Instagram at Rouxbe Plants, I will definitely make a meal from these dishes and post them so that you can see what they look like. So thank you so much for that. I also have a great recipe for you from This Doesn't Taste Like Chicken website if you wanted to make your own at home. And I think you'll have lots of fun doing it. And my other suggestion is to buy your beans or your lentils in bulk so that you're not stuck with a 2-pound package, because maybe you're not going to make it again or whatever. So just get it in bulk and you'll save a little bit of money that way. So thank you so much. Pardon me. So the next question is another question that a lot of students ask, and it's kind of a fun one. And there used to be a TV show called Mr. Wizard, and Mr. Wizard had all of the answers on how you could tell if something was aluminum or stainless steel or whatever. So here is my trusty stainless steel saute pan. And here is a magnet. It's a magnet from the Esselstyn Foundation. And if the magnet sticks, you know that it's stainless steel. I have a couple of other stainless steel pans here, but I don't want to make too much noise. But if you have a piece of aluminum like this pan and you have another magnet, and if it doesn't stick, that's how you know it's aluminum. So I'm not suggesting that you carry a magnet in your pocket all the time, but if you're going shopping for pots and pans and you want to verify that it is in fact stainless steel, I take a magnet to the store that day. So there you go. It's funny because I have here, sorry for making this much noise, Patrick, really sorry. I have a sheet pan. I'll just show you so that you can see. This is a Great Jones sheet pan. I'm crazy about the color, but again, there is a magnet on the back, so that's how you know that this is a stainless steel sheet pan. And I've had these pans for about 10 years, and I still think that they look pretty good. So sorry for that noise. Did I take a little quick hiatus because one of the, shall we say, cornerstone assignments that we have in many of our programs is the roasted vegetable assignment. And people will write, I roasted these in the oven for 30 minutes at 400 degrees. And when I look at the product, usually it's something a little bit more dense, like carrots or maybe butternut squash. And I always will write in the assignment review, you may want to invest in an oven thermometer so that you can validate your oven temperature, because your LCD readout might say 425, but you might have an incongruity where the actual temperature is 350 degrees. So what do? You go and get an oven thermometer. They look like this. They're about $4 or $5. You can hook it onto one of the grids on your pan, on your grid, and it will work and it will give you an actual readout. I'm going to give strong caution to this. One night I was teaching a cooking class, and perhaps you've noticed that sometimes I will talk with my hands, and I was talking and slit my finger and bled profusely, something that you don't want to have happen when you're teaching a cooking class. So my advice to you is to treat this with kid gloves, but for $4, this is much better than having to get a new oven. So you'll see a big difference in the caramelization of your vegetables, and your cooking times may be decreased. So just something else for you to think about. That was my little teacher commercial, so to speak. The next question is from Diane D. And Diane, you're asking if you've heard that table salt is full of microplastics. Is this true? Well, Diane, I don't know because I don't use salt, but you might want to call the manufacturer of the salt that you like the best, but I haven't heard that. I do know that right now there's a lot of hype in the news about microplastics and finding them in all kinds of different foods and so forth and so on, but I can't perfectly answer that question for you, but I do appreciate your sending it in. Thank you. This is from Melissa. Speech Month, Melissa, perfect question. I know that for our social media calendar, Chef Fran has some delicious recipes that we'll be posting throughout the month. We all love peaches. And last week I went to the grocery store and bought 3 beautiful peaches. They looked gorgeous. They felt fabulous. And when I went to slice them, they were not good on the inside. So peach picking takes a lot of care. So I like to eat them raw. I also like to bake them in the oven with some lemon juice and maybe a little maple syrup. I also like to air fry them, and they come out beautifully, and serve it with a dollop of plant-based yogurt. So there are many different ways to eat them. You can make shoe leather with them, tons and tons of stuff. Short window for peaches. Some people just like to eat them raw. I like them stewed. I like them baked. I like them air. I love them air fried because they caramelize really, really well, and they get that syrupy deliciousness to them. So check out what check out what Chef Fran has to say this coming month about peaches because she always has some great ideas. Quick story: the dessert that's called peach melba was named after an opera singer in San Francisco whose name was Nellie Melba, and she often requested at the St. Francis Hotel for people to serve her peach, the peaches that she likes, which then became the name of Peach Melba. So it's just kind of one of those funny, funny names. Oh, this is from Anne Marie T. Some of you may remember Anne Marie T. She finished the program at the end of last year, and now she is taking Chef Fran's Essential Vegan Dessert program. We often see that sort of trajectory from Forks Over Knives class to then going to the dessert class and maybe Plant Pro, sort of getting a full rounded experience here at Rouxbe with us. Let's see what she has to say. She made a sauce yesterday that called for bay leaves. What do they contribute to the flavor of a dish? So, was the sauce savory or sweet? But I will tell you, after having spent a week in Italy not too long ago, they use bay leaves in everything. They even will, if you're going to pre-soak your garbanzo beans, for example, pardon me, they will put 2 or 3 bay leaves into that. But I think it just gives it a nice flavor. And it's kind of fun to experiment with fresh bay leaves, Thai bay leaves, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't know if I can answer the question the way that you might be seeking the answer. But I will say that I love seeing you post things on Facebook. And it's always fun to see what you're up to and what you're making and what bicycling adventures you're going on. So, and it's always great to see you here. So thanks so much for stopping in today. This recipe is from Kathy C. Occasionally, a recipe for coconut oil is added to add solidity at room temperature to the final product. I don't like to use it because it has a high amount of saturated fat. What can I use instead? So here's my motto. Sometimes I'll see a recipe for like a yummy, scrumptious dessert, and I call it the I forgot method. I just pretend that I forgot to add that recipe and everything always comes out. Now, if it's the flavor that you're looking for, my friend Ann Esselstyn will use a coconut extract to give it that flavor. But in terms of what it will do to what you're baking, I personally wouldn't worry about it. I think in the chocolate ganache, I remember when I made the chocolate ganache recipe, that I totally skipped adding the oil, the coconut oil, and what I did was I just kept it in the freezer a little bit longer so that it would solidify, and everyone loved it and it turned out great. So sometimes you kind of have to experiment a little bit. I did want to say one thing about extracts. If you are making a raw dessert, and you might know that one of the people who's coming to your house or who you're cooking for, whatever, may have a problem with alcohol consumption, that there are alcohol-free extracts, and you can find them at a good grocery store or gourmet store, and they, I find, lend a more true flavor to what you're making. So I'm just sharing that little tidbit for you. The next one is from Janet C. She has a lot of sage, fresh and dried, but I don't know what to cook them with since we don't eat meat anymore. Do I have any advice? So if you're making seitan, there are a lot of, if you get a bag of the seitan mix from Bob's Red Mill, uh, they have a recipe on the back. And what I do with it is I stuff it with sage leaves at Thanksgiving time so that it has a familiar flavor to people who might miss eating its animal counterpart. So you can use it with that. You could make some beautiful fall dishes with it. Um, We have in our risotto recipe, uh, I believe that it is the asparagus risotto recipe. They will fry sage leaves. You can put them in the air fryer and they'll get crispy and crunkly and taste delicious, so you could use them with that. But I think that I've made them with mashed potatoes and they come out just lovely. If you're making a mushroom gravy, we have a really good recipe for a an oil-free mushroom gravy, and I've often added fresh sage to that, and it has a really nice flavor to it. So if you want that familiar fall flavoring in your food, I would heavily suggest to use sage. So that was a great question. This is from Cecilia. Have you used lupini beans and how do they compare to kidney and other beans? Well, first of all, I love lupini beans. They are very hard to cook. Truth be told, I buy a brand called Brahmi, Brami, because I love their lupini beans a lot. When I went to cooking school in Italy 2 years ago, lupini beans, you have to soak them for at least 18 hours. And one of the things that our host chef said is that you have to add sugar to them to take out the bitterness. Because if you have ever made lupini beans from scratch, raise his hand, they have a unique bitterness to them. So, sugar. And the other thing is, this Brahmi company makes them in with sage, with rosemary, with many different types of flavorings, so that I think it takes away from that, what I would call an acrid taste. But they are delicious. I will say that there are several brands in America of lupini beans that are packaged in glass bottles, and the sodium content is very high. And you can rinse them off, but you're only going to take off about 38% of that sodium covering. So you're still going to have 400 or 500 milligrams of sodium per serving. So that's just something to think about. So thanks for that great question, Cecilia. I always love hearing about different. Today we talked about sage, we talked about lupini beans, different kinds of tofu. So we really branched out and had some wonderful conversations today. It does not appear that there are any other questions. And one last thing is, some of you may already be out there doing catering or helping people throw parties. And we talked about oven temperature and how important that is, but I cannot talk enough about temping food. And when I travel with trusty ice coolers in my car, I take a pre-temp before I go, and then when I get to my destination, I want to make sure that that food is still in temperature. And this is a laser pro thermometer, and so that I can see what the internal temperature is inside my cooler. It reminds me of one time I was doing an event in Philadelphia, and this is way before Ruby. And the Department of Health was coming around every hour checking your temperature of your food to make sure that it wasn't temp, because they didn't want anybody to get sick. So thermometers if you're catering, thermometers if you want to check out your oven and get a nice, delicious caramelization on your project. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Don't forget to follow us at Ruby Plants on Instagram, and also at Ruby Plants and Pro Cook and everything else like that. It's a pleasure having you here today in my office, and I'll hope to see you next year on Tuesday, August the 26th, I believe. So thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Char Nolan, signing off from the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection, and I'll see you the next time. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye now.